Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Talking Landscape Photography. Very happy to be here. Joined here with Luke Tscharke tonight. Paul unfortunately can't be with us today.
Hey guys, how you
Um,
going?
we've got a really exciting episode for you today. We're talking to David Kingham and Cody Schultz of Nature Vision magazine and Nature Photographers Network. These guys have, made the bold call, but very exciting call to start up a digital magazine in the past year. And as an extension of the great nature photography website, forum sort of based website called the Nature Photographers Network. If you're not familiar, it's a really great platform for great photography, nature photography sort of community and feedback and articles. And the magazine has sort of been created as a bit of an extension of that platform. So we're really excited to chat to these guys, see a bit of their photography, and then sort of delve into, what their goal was with the magazine and the website, and just have a great sort of conversation from there.
Sounds
Before
good.
that, though, I mean, Luke and I have had pretty big adventures over the summer. Luke especially is away for quite a while. So yeah, give us a little snippet if you're happy to, Luke, of what you've been up to.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to decompress from all of the activities that I was up to. It was in Antarctica or South America for 7 weeks,
Mm.
and managed to do 3 trips to Antarctica in that time, including some time in the Falkland Islands and also South Georgia Island, which were beyond amazing. And then on top of that, was able to go to El Chalten and go up into the Patagonia region around Mount Fitzroy there, and was able to do some really nice landscape work up there. So very, very full hard drives and memory cards after all of that experience, and a huge amount of photos to go through, but some really cool stuff. And yeah, it's one of those things that you kind of hope that the photos that you take actually can do just a sliver of justice to the incredible scenes that you saw. And it's a little bit overwhelming to see so much incredible stuff every day, and trying to still stay almost motivated to capture it, because you get a little bit almost desensitized to it after a period of time. So but yeah, very grateful for the experience. And getting back to real life is completely massively challenging after something like that. So I'm treating, I treated February kind of like my just getting back used to normal life, and now we're in March, so March is probably where the rubber's going to hit the road, I think. So there you go. And you've been away too, Benny. You went up into Europe.
Yeah, I went up to the Dolomites for 3 weeks, starting 1st of February. So that originated as just a ski trip with my brothers and dad, a nice little family thing. And then I figured when in Rome, quite literally almost, I just extended a bit and get a bit of winter photography in the Dolomites in. Yeah, I mean, Europe's not like Europe photography for me these days is less of a priority. Like I'm more focused on Australia, a bit of New Zealand, like Oceania kind of stuff. But, 14, 15-year-old me, at the prospect of the thought of being able to shoot the Dolomites was very excited. Yeah, I
You've
remember
got to
frothing
spread your
over
wings sometimes.
those
It's good to
mountains.
get a
Yeah,
different perspective and
yeah,
different landscapes, and gives you ideas for when you're back at home too. It's always a
yeah.
good
And
thing.
so, yeah, I remember frothing over photos of those peaks when I was younger, and just thought it'd be a great opportunity to capture some stuff while I'm there. It's a very sort of touristy built up area, which is something I do less these days. But those peaks are very popular for a reason. They're quite incredible.
I don't know if
And I
it's
figured
something.
winter's quite a different season to capture it in. Most people will go in summer or autumn. So that came with its challenges. Snowshoeing everywhere is tough. But there's also plenty of chairlifts and stuff to get to places as well. So yeah, that allowed for some slightly different conditions to capture these popular spots in. But yeah, no, it was very fun, very very enjoyable.
I don't know if you also have the same feelings that I have when I'm overseas and trying different places, but it often also really helps me to appreciate how good it actually is here at home, and what we actually have. And
Mm.
even when I was in Patagonia, photographing the landscape there, it did definitely help me appreciate how diverse and spectacular the Tasmanian landscape is that I like to photograph. And so,
Yeah.
there's a lot to take away from those experiences, and I really appreciate that. So, yeah,
I
it's
honestly, yeah, I was there, and I was honestly missing Tassie. I was, just being surrounded by just really rugged, untouched wilderness, was something I just found myself really craving after being, like it's in the Dolomites. Honestly, wherever you are, it's hard to not get any touch of man in the shot, because
mm,
they've got like couple, maybe up to a couple hundred of those mountain huts amongst the ranges. There's roads, and like it's very geared towards ski tourism as well. Like you can ski most of the mountains around there, like which was an awesome skiing experience the week before. But yeah, it just meant with my tendency to try and cut out any hint of the human touch in my images, it made that quite challenging. So yeah, I like that. It made me appreciate how easy it is to get that back home.
Yeah, well, I found I didn't have so much the feeling around that of more hand of man, but more around just the diversity of the landscape. And I found that
mm,
the vegetation was very same. A lot of, well, I love Fagus trees, or the North of Fagus
mm,
trees, that they go beautiful color in autumn, but pretty much
mm,
everything is a tree that's like that. So there
mm.
doesn't seem to have the same amount of diversity, which is something that
Yeah,
I really appreciate, having different uh,
yeah,
vegetation types to photograph. So that
yeah,
was
absolutely.
quite interesting to me as well.
I also found myself missing the gnarly trees of home as well, like the more rather, because everything is just just straight pointy, like larches and pines and all that kind of stuff over there. So I found myself craving for some twisted, gnarled trunks and branches like we've got back home as well.
Well,
So
I have to say the Fagus in Patagonia definitely had that in spades, and I got some
yeah,
really great black and white stuff there.
yeah,
And so that was something that was definitely nice to have. And so
mm,
I know that's probably very high up on your list, but it's
mm,
definitely super well worth getting over there at some point. Definitely
mm,
dovetails in nicely with the trip to Antarctica if you're going via Ushuaia, because it's
yeah,
only about a 1.5 hour flight, I think, from Ushuaia to El Calafate, and then I think it's a couple-hour bus, and then you're at El Shelton. So it was quite
mm,
straightforward to get there, which was good.
yeah, for sure. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very keen to do a future episode on your big adventure once you've got a few more photos processed. But
Yeah, that's the
um,
challenge, isn't it? But yeah, no,
yeah,
certainly keen to do that.
yeah, fantastic. All right. Well, yeah, we might introduce our guests. So, yeah, please welcome David and Cody. Yeah, pleasure to have you guys along.
Yeah, thanks for joining us,
Yeah.
guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. So yeah, Nature Vision magazine. You guys, yeah, were chatting to us about this sort of project that you guys have started. So we might pedal it back a little bit from there, because Nature Vision magazine is sort of an extension from the Nature Photographers Network. Now, some of our like Australian viewers might be a little bit less familiar with the Nature Photographers Network. So would you guys be able to sort of maybe run us through what that website is, what it's all about, and maybe sort of why you decided to extend it into the magazine here?
Yeah. So NPN has been around for a very long time. It was actually started back in '99. So it was like very, very early days of the internet. So it was before social media. And it was this community where nature photographers could come together, with similar interests. And it's really a discussion forum that has a really focused aspect on giving critiques. So each member gives other members critiques. And, back in the day, there was lots of professionals like Guy Tall and a lot of different people, that Mark Adamus, that started on NPN and shared their knowledge on there. And I came across NPN pretty late in the game, but it was still, a really important piece of the community. So I, found a lot of friends on there, got some really good feedback, and really developed my photography through that site. And then social media started taking over, and the site wasn't being updated. So it looked like something from the 90s. So nobody was visiting it too much anymore. And I just really hated to see that site go away. So I decided to reach out to the owner and see if he wanted to sell it. And sure enough, he was ready at that time. So I bought it from him and just rebuilt it from the ground up. So it's a brand new platform based on the Discourse forum software that's really one of the most advanced softwares out there for discussion forums. So it's, really fast and beautiful, and, really had to rebuild the community because it had fallen out of favor for a long time. But everyone still knew the name, and they knew the ethos behind it, why it was so important. So people started coming back, and in the past couple of years, it's really started growing and making a huge comeback. So it's been really exciting to bring that back together and not allowing that site to die, because I think it's something that was really lacking in social media, because it's almost impossible to get actual feedback besides great photo on social media.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been really cool to bring that back.
There's also a lot of distractions on social media as well. So you end up going to like maybe an NPN kind of Facebook group or something, but then, some other notification pops up and then you're doing something else. So it'd definitely be nice to have like a dedicated place for that kind of thing as well.
Yeah, and it's also totally focused on nature photography. Like, we don't allow any talk on there about, politics or anything else. It's, people want to go to NPN to escape all of that drama. So that's another great aspect of it.
Similar to how you go into nature to kind of escape it to start with, I suppose. Right. That's great.
And that drama is just inevitable in any Facebook group or social media group anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is a big part of your role then also kind of administrating that and making sure that everything stays on track?
Yeah, so I do quite a bit of administration, but thankfully we have a great group of moderators that awesome. Help keep the forum running and the community acting properly. So yeah, it's the amount of administration has gone down over the years because I've found people to help, and it's just become easier to run technology wise. So don't have quite as much work, but it still is a lot.
Yeah, I could imagine. Definitely
always trying to keep innovating too, so there's always work with that.
Would you say that that's started taking up a lot, like most of your, or not most of, but a bit large chunk of your sort of time as a full-time photographer, or is it's still plenty of time for other sort of things in your business?
Yeah, I still have time for other things. I've had to push some things aside in order to get this really moving, especially with the magazine. But yeah, I still have plenty of time for myself and working on other things. And I've been better about getting photos out more recently too. I pushed that off for probably 3 years. Like, I put basically nothing out there because I was just so busy and just so overwhelmed. So it's been good to actually catch up on that.
Yeah.
Amazing. And so you mentioned about innovation is kind of is that where the magazine was placed? Then you sort of were looking at different ways of getting your message or the work or what the NPN's been up to out there, and the magazine kind of idea came from that?
Yeah, I think so to some degree. I mean, it's just a kind of a natural extension of it. We had been, Cody had been finding authors to do articles on the blog already. So we had been doing that for a while, and even on the old NPN, there was articles from people for a long time, but it just didn't seem like it was, I don't know, the right format. Like, I feel like blogs have kind of died, and people are just overwhelmed with all of that. So putting it in a format that was a lot more focused, so people could just put this on their iPad or whatever and be able to just immerse themselves in it more.
The website has an articles sort of page or function. How does that differ from the magazine?
The articles on the website are a little more technical because the magazine is really focused on creative vision and storytelling. So we keep the more technical stuff for just the blog.
Yeah. Is that you guys reaching out to people for that, or is that just anyone contributing when they want to?
Either way,
Mm.
you know, Cody and specifically for the magazine, and Cynthia for the articles, reach out to people to send stuff in. But
Yeah.
we also have an open submission where anyone can submit an article,
Mm.
and you know, we'll decide if it's best for the blog or the magazine.
Yeah,
And
gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah, nice. That makes sense. Yeah. And yeah, I suppose the more sort of like quick access, you know, sort of style of the website, yeah, makes sense for those more technical or like sort of tips and tricks, like that kind of thing. It just makes sense for the website forum, was the creative exploration and more philosophical aspects and stuff. Yeah, it makes much more sense for the magazine. So
I
in
guess
that
that
sense,
also
is that I would
means
say, sorry, Luke.
with the magazine, then you could also be offline and still have a look at that too. So you could be out in the field and take a little bit of a break and have a you know, page through the magazine. I guess you're probably looking at it digitally, so you're still sort of having a bit of a separation from being out in nature. But that's still, yeah, it's nice to be able to not be so, you know, having to sit down at a computer or something to interact with something. So that's pretty nice.
So I
Yeah,
would say, like, is there like a mission statement, or would you say that there's a particular direction that you want to take the magazine, that you're really like trying to hammer home for its purpose, you know, for its existence?
I don't know that we have a mission statement. Did we ever do that, Cody? I can't remember.
I don't think we have anything like properly
Not
written
necessarily
up.
exactly, but just like a general sort of intention. Yeah.
It's our intention with the magazine has always been to have that much heavier focus on creativity and the philosophy behind your photography, kind of the stories behind the compositions that you've created and the experiences there, more so, like you said, about than the technical aspects. So kind of leaning more towards that would be our mission statement, trying to, again, get away from the 10 best lenses for X photography kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
definitely
for
like
sure.
that deeper, more contemplative writing, and you know, thinking about it more from a holistic perspective rather than, you know, burying yourself in the technical aspects, and you know, it's all very clinical when you're looking at that sort of it from that angle. And so it's nice to be able to step back and, you know, what is it really that we're doing out here, and what am I actually trying to do with the work that I'm creating, and thinking a little bit more deeply about things is really great to encourage people to do. So I think that's fantastic. I was just wondering, in terms of, I guess, firstly, how frequent you're looking at doing issues with that, or have been doing issues, and then also, you know, how people could have a look at it and subscribe to it, including the NPN, I guess, as well.
Yeah, so we release issues quarterly, so every 3 months. And you can find the magazine at it's naturePhotographers.network/Nature Vision Magazine, or you can just go to naturePhotographers.network is the easiest way to find it. So obviously that's where you can find NPN too. You can download like a free preview of a little bit of the first issue. Just to back up a minute, one of the other key aspects of the magazine is that we're trying to get a really diverse bunch of different authors. So rather than having the same people in every issue and hearing the same stories every time, we're trying to find people from all over the world that are not necessarily professionals, just people that can be up and comers that have something that they want to tell. So I think that's what really sets us apart from other magazines, is that diversity.
Yeah. I remember seeing your first issue. I'm not subscribed just yet, but I'm looking forward to doing so and getting a full read of the last few issues. And yeah, I remember seeing, it was such a great mix. I think, you know, you had Eric Ben and Guy Tal, but you also had Alfredo Mora on there, who's, you know, he's not a professional, but he's doing quite well for himself. He's very creative sort of guy, but not necessarily one of your quote unquote big shots these days. But yeah, I really appreciated that sort of inclusion of a mix of people. I thought that was quite cool.
I think
Yeah.
also the beginner mindset's a really important mindset, and often when you've been doing this a while, you get set in your own ways, and so hearing a different take and someone that's a bit more fresh-faced or not so much marching to the beat of the drum everyone else is always a great angle to have. So I'd personally like to hear from people that are just getting into it or having have a different perspective that way, because it's not always the people that have the most experience have the most useful things to say. So it doesn't work that way. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like as editor with this, it's my personal goal with it is just to provide a platform for people that otherwise wouldn't have access to the platform. So in terms of reaching out to people to write articles for us, there are plenty that are just starting off with landscape photography, but everyone has some sort of unique experience to share, some unique insight that they can get, and that even professional landscape photographers who have been doing this for decades can glean some sort of insight from. I mean, like I said, everyone has something unique about them and their experiences. So,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, very true.
For sure. Actually, and so to touch on that, so you mentioned, Cody, you're jumping into the editing, and you've got intentions with how you want to run that. What was your sort of background for becoming part of this project, and how did you find yourself getting involved and becoming part of the Nature Vision magazine?
yeah, so I found Nature Photographers Network right when it was starting to be kicked back into life by David and Jennifer in 2018, and posted a little bit here and there, and then just kind of got bored with it and moved on. And then I want to say it was 2022, somewhere around that I was doing this school project and was needed to look at I needed to look at an online community or community of some aspect for it.
Mm.
And I chose to look into Nature Photographers Network, kind of saw it as it needed a little bit more life than what it had. And so I interviewed some of the members that were part of it just to get an idea of, is this still active? Is this still something that people enjoy going to? And the answer was essentially a resounding yes, that there was still plenty to get from it. And fast forward maybe a month or two later, I reached out to David because prior to that, there were really nothing, like no articles or anything posted on there. There wasn't a lot of forward-facing activity unless you were a member. And so I reached out to David and I'm like, hey, how can I help? Like, whether it's writing more frequently, whether it's contributing, trying to get the word out in some way, whatever. And him and I have been working together ever since to, like he said initially, to get monthly articles written and find contributors in that way. And now for us coming together with this magazine idea and seeing where it takes us from there.
Yeah, awesome. You said school, was that like college or high school? I just assume that's college.
Yeah, I'm not that young.
Yeah.
I'm young, but I'm not. I
Ben's always
have
trying
only
to work
been,
out if he's his youngest, I think.
I may have only been a year old when NPN first originated, but I'm not.
Yeah.
No, that was my final year of my bachelor's degree. So
Yeah,
yeah.
nice. Which degree was that?
I got a degree in educational studies, which is absolutely useless. So that's ended up going for my master's in a 1-year program for English education then, which is also proven to be useless so far.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that. If you're releasing this incredible magazine, then there's always like I've got a science degree, and I can't say I'm using that a whole bunch at the moment, being a full-time photographer as well. So it's life has a very interesting way of taking you in these different directions, and looking back, you can see, oh well, if I didn't do that, then this wouldn't have happened. So, but yes, it's always yeah, I think with AI coming in, I think a lot of people are going to have a similar feeling of what the work they're doing no longer may have the same, or the studies they've done have the relevance. So yeah, it's an interesting world we live in.
Yeah. So how much of, is this kind of becoming a little bit of a, a lot of your time sort of thing, Cody, or have you got other things that you're doing, for work in the meantime as well? What's your sort of day-to-day look like at the moment?
It's pretty much just this.
Yeah.
Just trying to figure out my path in terms of my own photography,
Mm.
and also my own life in terms of whether I'm going to pursue a career in education or
Mm.
see if I can't make editing for being the editor of Nature Vision magazine a full-time gig. That all depends on how much David wants to pay me for it, though. But we'll see.
Well, we might
On
leave that
record now,
conversation
so.
for later. Yeah, that might be.
Yeah, we didn't have this one
No.
on the agenda. Salary discussions. Let's go. Very good. No, that's awesome. And yeah, no, it's really cool to see sort of the enthusiasm for sort of this style of format still, amongst the modern world where everyone's just saying, just create reels on Instagram or TikTok or whatever. And that's your only way to build engagement. That's the only way to build an audience. I think stuff like this still actually gaining traction and being something that people are still enthusiastic about, brings a lot of hope towards, people still being interested in, deeper content than a 10-second, trendy reel that uses an audio that 20 million other people have used, and for the sake of, pleasing an algorithm. So it's really cool. And yeah, something I definitely recommend everyone listening to check out. And I'll be looking into it more myself as well. Because yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed that little snippet that you guys give in the website to give a taste of the magazine, and knowing some of the authors that have contributed to what you guys have put out so far. Yeah, there's only going to be high quality content in there. So yeah, no, it's just really cool. It's a great project. Yeah, have there been particular challenges that you guys have come across so far that you either were expecting or weren't expecting?
I think one of at least what I've faced, is the challenge of finding photographers who sort of have the confidence in themselves to write articles. It's not necessarily a skill that everyone has in their back pocket all the time. It's not something that they're necessarily practicing all the time, especially when you're talking about writing articles that are more in the philosophical realm rather than the how-to. I mean,
Mm.
it's pretty simple, not to take anything away from it, but it's pretty simple to write an article about how to take or how to use compositional rules for certain landscapes. But to kind of delve into your why behind your photography can be much more difficult. And so finding authors who, again, have that confidence has been one of the bigger challenges. But we're still working on it, and we're still finding plenty of great individuals.
Mm.
And it just takes sometimes a little bit of prodding to
Mm.
get them to put out something beautiful. And then they come back and they realize, like, this was a great experience and I loved writing for this magazine. Thank you for pushing me for this. And they go on to write even more for us or for other publications too, which has been great to see.
Yeah, for sure. And I suppose like the technical stuff is easier because really, as all photographers have been through the technical stuff, and we've had like to become photographers, we've all had to think about and study the technical stuff in order to actually be able to, do what we do. But not necessarily everyone is, approaching that deeper side. And, not necessarily everyone is going beyond that technical side or just the pure visuals and thinking, why am I doing this? What are my deeper intentions behind this? Not everyone is necessarily thinking about that, which I suppose makes sense why, yeah, harder to find people that, can competently write about that.
And I think too, there plays a certain degree of, say, imposter syndrome when it comes
Mm.
to that,
Mm.
because you think that, oh, my experiences aren't unique. They
Mm.
don't, there's nothing interesting about them. There's nothing for other people to glean, no information from it. But the reality tends to be quite the opposite. So I think that definitely
I'd feel
plays
that
into
way.
it.
If Guytel had the article before mine, I think I would feel a similar way. I think. So
It
yeah, if
is
I can,
hard.
yeah.
Yeah, I think you reached out to me actually, Cody, at some point, unless I'm remembering that wrong. But yeah, I remember like, because I can write, and yeah, English was probably one of my stronger subjects in high school, but I haven't written many articles since then. And I remember thinking like having a couple of ideas, but then you kind of get the sort of intrusive thought in your head, like, well, if I'm thinking of it, Guy Tell's definitely thought of it before me. And you look at other people who are so prolific, and it's like, how can I offer anything, beyond what has already been explored? But I suppose what you bring to the table is, your own personality and experiences, and only you have lived with that and experienced that, and have thought of maybe about this particular facet of the topic. And so even if it is a covered topic, yeah, that you can still bring unique things to it. So that's been something I've been trying to overcome my own head as well.
And I guess you might have a different way of putting it too. So it might be the same kind of message, but sometimes that doesn't connect with people in the same way that you might be able to put it too. So there's always those sort of perspectives.
Yeah. I mean, Guy Tall can be very dense in terms of trying to get through some of the stuff that he's written, but having written in the same publications as him and being published right alongside of him, right at the very start of my own creative writing career, there is a certain sense of intimidation there, but it's also great when he comments back like, oh, I love this article, or I love this point that you brought up, and all of that. There's definitely a confidence boost there.
Wow,
yeah,
that's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I suppose that's good testament to your own writing as well in that case too. So
I'm keen to know a bit more actually about your writing process, or maybe how you first of all, do you sit down and write the whole thing in one session, or does it take some time to really nut out the different points and like from a time perspective and those kind of aspects?
Writing for me these past few months has been rough. It's I attribute a lot to that of like, so I talk about it a lot in my own writing and everything that I do, the mental health issues that I've dealt with, the depression and anxiety that I've dealt with for the past decade and ongoing. And so, especially now in Pennsylvania, here in the States, we're in winter and it's bleak and dreary, and seasonal affective disorder is kicking in hard. And along with everything else going on in life, writing has been on the back burner a bit. But trying to get back into it. And usually it's just, I sit down with an idea and I just let everything flow as much as I possibly can. Just kind of do a bit of free writing. What do they call it? Flow of consciousness writing, and just see what sticks. And then I'll go back through and cross out what I don't like and type up what I do. Because most of the time I'm writing by hand. I have that better connection there a little bit, I think. So yeah, I mean, sometimes I can get an article out in less than a day that's solid and polished enough, and other times for longer stuff or even the same word count, whatever you want to consider it, it can be weeks until I get something, until I polish it to where it needs to be. But speaking of that, I think I actually owe one to our own magazine yet, but
David's just sitting in the corner there, just come on, Cody.
Well, that's a creative dilemma, though, isn't it? Like things can just go out and everything happens at once, and it's the easiest thing ever, and then it can just be the most simple thing, and it can be the hardest thing you've ever done in your life. Almost, it's not a linear kind of experience. A lot of this sort of creative endeavor, and it can be intensely frustrating until you kind of realize that that's the way it flows, and just sometimes you have to just sit there with a bit of acceptance around that and do the best you can until you hit that next sort of spurt or whatever you want to call it, where things just flow. I don't know if you've experienced things that way, but certainly how I attempt to seem to get things happening.
Yeah, when I was back really in the flow of writing, just plug in my headphones, listen to like jazz or lo-fi music, something without words, without really any distraction, and I could write for hours and just one after another get through like 3 articles in an afternoon. but it's just a matter of getting back into that state, especially that state of mind. I mean, I talk about it all the time, that mindset is everything when it comes to photography, with writing, art, all of it. It's just getting into that proper state of mind.
Yeah, might and mood too. Well, they kind of similar, but not exactly the same. And I sometimes I find that, you know, if your mood's not right, then you could be doing it whatever you like, but it's never going to work until you have that right phase to be in. So yeah, it is interesting how that can pan out.
Yeah, Luke and I think are both similar in certain ways in the way we put things out, and we'll either kind of be procrastinating heavily or just blazing through things. There's kind of not much of it in between. Yeah, and it's kind of like that. It's, yeah, I don't know if you'd call it flow state or just state of like hyper focus. But yeah, hyper focus is definitely when I kind of get most things done. And in the limited amount of articles I've written before, I tend to be a bit of a word vomiter, and I'll just, you know, blurt out, you know, twice the length of the article that it's meant to be, you know, as a final product, and then just sort of refine it and cut it down from there to be something more intelligible and concise. But yeah, so yeah, looking forward to trying to put something together for you guys at some point. Got a couple of ideas. But yeah, so yeah, you mentioned those are a couple of things on the sort of editing side. David, what about on the publishing side? This is, I believe, your first time, you know, doing any sort of publishing. So how have you found that to be?
Actually, it hasn't been too much of a challenge. There are a lot of technical hurdles to overcome to figure out how to distribute and everything in the beginning, but found solutions to everything, and everything seems to be working pretty smoothly now.
Yep.
You know, I think the hardest part now is just getting it out to the people and figuring out how to advertise it better, and get people to know about it is the hardest thing.
Yeah, for sure. It's so you're doing digital format. Did you ever consider print format, or was that kind of out of the question?
No, we're definitely considering that for the future.
Yeah.
I think once we have a big enough subscriber base, then we can start looking at that. But I think we just wanted to start with this to see, you know, if the audience was there, without much risk. So I think we're finding that it's there. I'd like to find a bigger audience first to make sure that could be sustainable. But yeah, we would love to do that.
Yeah,
that'd be amazing.
Awesome. Are you finding there's any sort of barriers with you know, physical print, because paper materials are relatively expensive at the moment, aren't they? So yeah, has that been prohibitive at all?
I know of a lot of people that are, you know, creating portfolio, you know, type coffee table books right now and having endless issues. So that's definitely a concern. And, you know, I would like to see things get a little more stabilized in the print market before we move on with that, because that'd be a major concern right now.
Yeah. I remember we've talked to a few people on the podcast on this. They've been looking into books or have just done books or whatever, and have mentioned how much more expensive it is, even compared to, you know, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I think it was really the COVID sort of stuff and, you know, war in Europe and all that kind of stuff has just, you know, accumulated to pretty inflated costs. So yeah, hopefully that, you know, stabilizes at some point, so you guys can start doing physical media. Had you ever dreamt that you'd be running a magazine like this at any point? Like,
no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Was it Cody that came up with the idea, or was it you that sort of wanted to push the magazine?
I don't remember exactly. Do you remember, Cody?
I would love to take credit for it by all means.
Mutual idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was definitely more of a mutual idea. I think I may have kicked it off a little bit, just proposing it to him, but it came together quite naturally. It was pretty much a natural progression anyway. It was bound to happen. So,
yeah. And have you found that it's directed more traffic to NPN?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
because people, you know, there's there's a discount if you sign up for both at the same time.
Yeah.
So I'd say the vast majority of people sign up for both. So it's and they're very integral together, because we do things like feature NPN members, whose work we find really interesting, do interviews with them, and you can even comment on the articles on the site. So yeah, we try to bring those things together, and we want to do that even more. So yeah.
Awesome. That's good. And yeah, I suppose it's just that, that business strategy of just, putting your name and, business in like multiple different forms of media, just getting it out there in as many different forms as possible, just, is always going to bring a bit more traffic. So, that's good. That's good. Have you found it's brought some different, like, have you got any sort of info on like, demographics or anything like that? Has it helped diversify your target audience at all, or is it pretty much an extension of the same sort of people that were already coming to NPN?
I think it has diversified as far as like international, viewers go. I think we were a lot more US and kind of UK based before, but now it's really expanding because our authors are so diverse from all over the world, and they're all promoting it. So it helps to find people in different markets for sure.
Because in your first issue, you had Theo Bosboom, I believe, and you've had some other European photographers. So that's awesome. And so there's so much diversity in Europe too. So cool to see. It's cool to hear that there's a bit more expansion there. Have you got much of an Australian sort of base?
We have quite a few Australian members actually.
Cool.
Yeah, we'd love to have more, of course.
Yeah, get on it, everyone. You heard it.
Yeah, check it out. And I was interested too. Given Cody, you're doing a podcast, is that like another media that you guys could potentially get involved in as well through NPN, as having more of a audio sort of version?
I've talked about that before. I don't think I've talked about Cody with that. This was a long time ago, but we just need to find a good host for that. Because I'm not the person for that, but
well, so
I think it'd be cool to do that.
Yeah, it's definitely.
I think
you go.
I think the difficulty with doing something like that, with doing a podcast, is the saturation of the market in terms of looking at that realistically. Of course, you are already starting off with a user base with NPN and the magazine itself. It's something that I could see in the future, but again, finding the right host for it, because I have little interest in that. But more so just making sure that it's unique enough, and I think that's the biggest thing. Like with the magazine, we have the uniqueness of providing that platform for the beginners, so to speak, with the lesser known individuals, and trying to figure out that little twist that would make the podcast different than just your typical interview kind of platform where you're asking just a bunch of pre-planned questions that it's all the same. But
yeah,
I honestly would love to, like, if you guys started running a podcast, because like you're already sort of on the basis of a little bit more delving into creative vision and all that kind of thing. If you had a podcast form like in that same sort of vein, I would love to listen to that, honestly, because there's not, like, in terms of landscape or nature photography podcasts, there's not heaps out there. And then, every host is different. So even if it is the same people being interviewed or whatever, everyone has a different way of doing, and even just interacting with people, and having different sort of priorities in what they talk about. So if you guys started one, I would
more like a community thing too. So it doesn't necessarily have to be for external people. It could just be for the people that are part of NPN already, and another way for them to connect. And I know personally, I'm the kind of person that's much more likely to listen to something than read it. So people have different ways of consuming things. So it's just what sort of prompted me to ask, I suppose, as well. So, but sorry if I've put you in the hot seat there on that one.
Well, if anyone out there thinks they could be a good host, reach out to me.
There you go. You heard it here first, folks.
Very good.
Nice one. Well, I reckon I'm actually pretty keen to see some of the work from these guys too, Ben.
Yep, fantastic.
Yeah, because there's some incredible stuff there, and I think we've been doing a lot of faces and talking to camera, and it's nice to see some pictures as well.
Cool. Let me start sharing a screen. Here we go. Just make sure. Can you guys see that now?
Yep. Fine. Yep.
Fantastic. All right. So here's David's website. So we'll start with the grand landscape because I just can't get enough of this cover photo right here. Let's go the desert.
So you were saying that you're in Death Valley right now, David?
I am, yeah.
On theme. Look at that atmosphere. My goodness. That is delicious. Are there any photos you'd like to sort of tell us about, David, or give us a bit of a background story? Anything like that?
God, I don't know.
It sounds like opening a Pandora's box.
Yeah.
So many stories. Each photo's a story, isn't it? So
yeah, no, that is sublime.
Yeah,
that light is just gorgeous. The sort of subtle blue tones in the clouds as well. Like it's so like soft atmosphere. Really, really beautiful. I think Alex Noriega has a relatively similar like position, like in terms of vantage point, not the same composition, obviously. But I remember being blown away by his too. It's just it looks like such a great area. Yeah.
Alex,
do you shoot with a do you shoot with a 4.5 camera, or is it you just enjoy that crop? I think that's what it is.
These days I shoot with a Canon R5. I used to shoot with a Fuji like XT3 for many years, and I was perfectly happy with the crop sensor, but just moved on from that.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So that's during a windstorm. You mentioned you might be getting a big windstorm tonight. Does that mean you'll be heading out for sunrise tomorrow potentially?
Potentially. The wind is supposed to like go on for 3 days with extreme winds. So always fun to go out in the windstorms, but we'll see what happens.
There must be that one you just had up there, Ben. Like there must be a nice challenge finding just a beautiful spacing and not having I see you've very deliberately tried to not cut off too many of the front sort of, what would you call them, like little pans there, so it's they're all laid out so nicely in the frame there.
Little salt pans. It's super hard to find a good composition in this absolute chaos, and it's always changing. Like this doesn't exist at all anymore. So you're always going out finding new things. But I wandered around for way too long trying to find something that worked, and just found something at the very last second that kind of flowed together nicely.
I actually love the good degree of focus stacking there too to keep it all in focus.
Yeah, I think so.
I actually love the clear sky here. I think it really complements it. Just the subtle sort of pastel tones. It's quite beautiful.
We have a lot of blue skies in Death Valley typically, so you got to work with what you got.
Here's another very atmospheric windstorm.
That was during a windstorm.
Is that quite telephoto, this one?
I believe so. Most likely.
Oh, fantastic.
That evolved one is it the one on the how amazing.
With that rainbow.
Thanks.
Is that little pitter patter of raindrops in the mud cracks as well that I see there?
Yeah, it was raining a little bit on me.
Little polka dots in the ground. That's quite a cool little detail.
And it's really well thought out. I love how that it's all pointing not directly centered but towards that direction of the rainbow. So it's you don't have that full on centered sort of you've still got a bit offset, but the cracks interacting with the rainbow, like that's just magic.
I liked how they kind of mirrored each other.
I love this, like just the luminance in the reflection there, because I mean the reflection shots, if they don't have an extra element, they can be a little bit sort of on the nose, but just that texture in the ground just elevates it and just makes it so much more interesting. I really, really love that. And the luminance again that it captures in the sky. Yeah, it's just fantastic. I love a yellow blue sort of color contrast.
At the time, I was really studying the Hudson River School of Painters, so I was heavily inspired by that at the time.
Yeah, fantastic. We might diversify. Let's have a look at mountains. Very good. That's the Yellowstone. So such an incredible waterfall. I've seen so many amazing photos of that. Jennifer's got some awesome photos of this waterfall too. Yeah, no, so good.
Just the power of it.
Yeah. This one looks quite unique, actually. It's just put that foreground here. So where's this one, David?
This is in Crested Butte, Colorado.
Yeah, cool.
Kind of up on a pass.
Like columbine flowers or something. Something like that.
Yeah, those are columbines. Very iconic flower of Colorado.
Fantastic. How about let's have a look.
I got to see nightscapes, surely. Don't leave me hanging.
Yeah. Sorry, Luke. I know Luke loves his nightscapes. Here we go. I'll check out that pano. That's some awesome air glow.
Yeah, bloody oath. Look at that.
You guys get a lot of the sort of green air glow. The only air glow I've seen in Australia has been quite a vibrant red.
We got some greens too. Yeah, I've definitely had.
Yeah, we definitely do. Actually, so you'd be the better authority on that than me.
Oh, no, you're right. I haven't seen it for a long time though, mind you. It used to get a lot of air glow, but I haven't seen it as much for a while. Just don't know what's going on in the atmosphere to get more or less of it, but certainly want a nice dark sky location like this one to make that work. Yeah.
Well, actually, I think was it the first year of the NLPA or the second year? Is that shot from the Arthurs that had some amazing green air glow?
That was
right?
It'll come to me.
I remember his name. But yeah, I remember that actually. It was quite
I know amazing. The one you mean,
yeah, air glow. Some are those big cat footprints? Or they do you know what sort of footprints that'd be?
I would guess coyote or bobcat. They're pretty small.
Yeah, okay.
Just wide angle trickery.
That had unnerved me seeing the animal footprints in the sand like that.
We don't have anything like that to get too worried about. Maybe kangaroo might track you down at some point, but that's about it.
Yeah. Every American guest we have on, I always say America's way scarier for wildlife than Australia. Got no bears tracking us down. Yeah, that's amazing.
That's cool.
Is that steam coming off there?
Yeah, from there's some kind of clouds and fog, but the steam coming off the thermal features in Yellowstone.
Yeah, awesome. It's so atmospheric. Yeah, fantastic. We'll have a look at the intimates as well.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at ephemeral. Oh, look at that mud. Lots of good mud, mate. Fantastic.
I love going out on a shoot with you, Ben, because I'm out you're just looking straight at your feet the whole time. So
yeah,
good.
I'm just pointing at the ground. I love the really high contrast approach you took there. Yeah. I think somewhere around 2005, we all became afraid of high contrast, and I think there's some really great ways to utilize it. Let's bring clipping blacks back.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that that's just become like a no-no, or I guess I think they say every good black and white should have some total black in it. So yeah, it's a good thing to think about.
I've started trying to play with like silhouette and stuff a lot more these days. It's something I'm started to find myself gravitating towards, and it's just a nice break from everything having detail everywhere, including both in terms of sharpness and exposure. We're obsessed with detail being everywhere, but whereas I think we can lean into sometimes deliberate use of shallow depth of field or clipping blacks or whatever for creative intent. there's use cases for those, and we've kind of there was good 15-20 year period where we kind of lost that for the in the general sort of wider landscape photography broad field. So it's cool to kind of see people bringing that back a bit, getting a bit more creative.
I have to say that I'm like embarrassed by how out of date my website is.
Yeah.
So if you want to see my like very most recent work, if you go to journals.
Okay, it's journals on your here. There we go.
Yeah,
I have this. I have the same dilemma with mine as well. I think there'd be quite a few photographers out there that would be in the same boat.
Which is a good one to click on?
Actually, the other journal. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Journal.
I've got a confusing mess right now. I need to work on this so badly.
Here we go.
So, yeah, that first one is fantastic. The most recent.
Oh, so yes. I remember seeing these wolf photos. That was amazing.
So I put it into a PDF.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to download that now. I might just have to reshare my screen.
Take too long.
No, it should open in the browser, shouldn't it?
Oh, here we go. Yeah. Here we go. Got some nice writing to accompany as well.
That's a really nice way of presenting a series like that and creating almost like your own little ebook with it, which is really it's a beautiful way just to really consolidate it all.
Yeah, I liked the presentation a lot more than what you can do on a website.
It's a great shot on the left. That's fantastic. And this one too on the right. They're both awesome. There's this one shot that I remember seeing on your Instagram with the wolf walking through as like a portrait, I think. And I was blown away by that. This is gorgeous too. I haven't seen this.
Wow.
And it looks like you got some great light.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're very fortunate. We had amazing light all week.
It's that golden atmosphere.
What's the temperature get down to with that? It looks very, very cold.
It was pretty pleasant most of the time.
Really?
Like on this day it was minus 30.
Okay.
Fahrenheit.
Oh, actually, sorry, that's Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
But I mean, pretty close to Celsius.
Yeah, when it gets really cold, it sort of equalizes. Yeah.
Like at minus 40, it's the same.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That looks like it's floating in the clouds. So would that be a combination of the steam and fog, or would that be like what's sort of happening here?
I think that was just steam coming off a thermal feature.
It's such a unique combination of elements like that they produce. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Look at the colors there. That's beautiful. I'm gonna scroll forward a bit faster and see if I can find this wolf photo because I'd love everyone to be able to see that. Right towards the bottom. Okay. Oh, that's it.
Oh.
That just really caught me. That's amazing. There's so many different textures going on here.
And so you have to really work out what's happening in your own mind there.
That high frequency sort of texture in the water and then the organic shapes. If that was isolated, I'd have no idea what's going on. I still don't really know what's going on. And then I love that you I know, use some dehaze or whatever to bring out the texture in the clouds there. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And that little highlight down here is fantastic too. Here's the wolves.
Wow.
Those are
that must be
there.
Coyote. Yeah.
Okay.
Got to know your species, Ben.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm not across the American biology enough to fauna. There we go. That's the one I saw. That is sublime. Is that a wolf or is that a coyote?
That's a wolf.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good work.
Yep. Yeah, man, that is just spectacular. The way, like, because so I'm not a huge wildlife photography person, but when it's wildlife integrated into an amazing landscape photography composition, I think it's just incredible. So it's just so well composed, and then the atmosphere is brought out really nicely.
I'm not a wildlife photographer either, so this was just happenstance.
Were you already set up for this shot and then it walked in, or was this a very spur of the moment? You saw it walking there and quickly grabbed it?
No, just very spur of the moment, and fortunately saw something that I really liked.
Yeah, because that's all about timing too, of course. You have it right in the right spot. It's not on the snow, it's right in the just where you'd want it to be, and in a stance that's interesting as well. So that's, and you got that 3 things going on. Oh, is that a whole pack? Wow.
Part of it,
Fantastic.
yeah. There were
Yeah.
actually 12 of them, but
How's that for a background? Like, honestly,
Like there's so many little
just
like scenes
emerging.
within
Yeah,
that as well. Like there's so
yeah,
many like
exactly.
this here could be a frame, this here could be a frame, these trees
yeah.
here could be a frame. But
Mm.
I actually love that they're all within the one because there's just so much to explore and like because they work together so cohesively as well. And the balancing of the wolves beneath that is just awesome.
Must have been beside yourself shooting in those conditions. It would have been
it's
amazing. Yeah,
just ridiculous.
yeah.
You
That's
never
cool.
see them on the thermal features like that. So
Wow.
yeah.
Oh, look at those. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Those are just weird bacterial mats.
Fantastic. Oh, these are amazing, David.
Mm.
Are there any other particular ones that you'd recommend?
I don't know that the first one there, the
Go back to the journals. Here we go.
yeah, I don't know. I did have that black and white feature. If you go back to my normal galleries.
Yep. Oh, sorry, that's Cody's. Black and white monochrome.
Monochrome, yeah.
Yep.
And perpetual transformations.
Yep.
That one was featured in Elements and Lens Work recently.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Very good. Do you often find yourself working in black and white? Like, is that a common thing for you? I mean, there's 82 images in this, so I assume so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Would you
fairly
say you have a
often.
preference?
I have a really hard time picking. I love both color and black and white so much. So I go back and forth all the time. Some days I'll just go out with the intention of shooting black and white and put my camera into black and white and just focus totally on that. Just kind of depends on my mood.
That's a great foreground there. Yeah, it's something that I'm wanting to explore a bit more as well because I think I've got maybe 2 black and white photos in my portfolio. And yeah, it's just a different way of seeing and capturing things. So yeah, no, it's. Are there any particular shots within this? Oh, I love that. Within this gallery, you'd like us to sort of show here?
I don't know.
Yeah. This is great. So this is really like, is this all sort of Death Valley focused?
Yeah, these are all in Death Valley, all kind of from the same playa, just different conditions.
Yeah.
Different years.
And are these, different years.
Over
Yeah,
I don't know, 8 years worth of photos.
Wow.
So.
Wow.
Oh, that's amazing. That's a great abstract. I had no idea what's going on. So just so wispy. Like it's like trails of clouds.
Filaments.
It's awesome.
Yeah. I need to get my infrared camera over there. It'd be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, fantastic.
Yeah, I'm terrible talking about my own work, so.
No, I
Well,
love
it speaks for itself, so that's a handy thing.
That's good.
I love your exploration of texture, especially. Texture plays such a massive part, clearly in your images. Would you say that that's something that you actively look for, or is that just how you naturally gravitate towards things?
I don't know. I think I must just naturally gravitate towards it. I try not to think too much about my images. I just kind of go out and see what interests me, what grabs my eye, and I just photograph that.
It's absolutely fascinating. That foreground
and tessellations, yeah.
And I haven't seen like a ton of black and white stuff from Death Valley as well. Like I've seen like some from Sarah Marino and everyone, but like primarily it's color work. And the sort of either golden hour stuff or creative use of harsh light or that sort of soft alpenglow or pastel sunset look. So there's not heaps that leans into the harshness, I suppose. Kind of getting that more bold look because
contrast,
so much like because it's a harsh landscape, photographers will do things that interpret it in a more soft way to sort of counteract that, to show that there's a softness and that other side to the landscape. But there's not heaps that actually leans into the harshness. And I think you've done that really, really well with these sort of black and white ones that show its form. Because obviously, you know, the desert's color necessarily in that harsh light, I imagine, isn't so pleasing to look at, but the way it highlights those forms with the more direct light is really, really cool. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, and I'm working on
Amazing.
another project in black and white of just the canyons in Death Valley, because it's not a thing a lot of people have explored. So we've, you know, kind of become obsessed with exploring all the different canyons in Death Valley, and there's hundreds of them that very few people have seen. So it's been fun doing that.
Yeah, fantastic. Are they pretty hard to access? Like, do they get quite technical, or are they something you can sort of just hike through?
I mean, there's a huge variety. Some of them are very technical that you have to rappel down, but there's tons of them that are very accessible that just require, you know, kind of long, sloggy hikes up the alluvial fans to get to them. And then some of them can be, you know, slightly technical where you requires you to do a little bit of climbing, but nothing crazy.
Is that primarily what you're doing? Have you done any like quite technical ones?
No, not yet. And I probably never would in Death Valley, because they are some of the most challenging terrain, because there's a lot of like conglomerate that's really loose rock, and it's pretty dangerous to do canyoneering here.
It'd have to be quite well seasoned, I imagine.
Yeah, but I'd love to get into more of that, at least doing like canyons in Utah with sandstone.
Yeah. Would you ever consider, like, for maybe your first time doing a technical one, like a guide or anything like that to help out?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've been thinking about that for a while, and definitely want to go out with a guide to learn how to do it.
Yeah. I've been considering that because Australia's Blue Mountains have some pretty amazing world-class canyons as well. And there's a couple that are relatively accessible, but for the most part, they're at least a little bit technical, if not very technical. Luke's got some experience with it. But yeah, no, I'd love to, you know, I'd be way too scared to do it alone, or like try to figure it out for myself. And it'd be quite stupid too, really. You get people that die from them every year. But yeah, I'd love to sort of broaden my horizons a bit with some of that, because they're quite lush over here, which is really cool. We don't have the sort of deserty ones so much like we do over in the Northern Territory and everything, but closer to home, they're much more sort of fern lined.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing, the ones in the Blue Mountains. Yeah. How's this drone shot up here? It's just astounding. The one above this one. No, the one above that. Well, that's great too. Yeah.
They're both drone shots.
Yeah.
I love the sort of balancing of these two mountains either side. This like absolutely spectacular peaks here.
Yeah, I see that's what you're sort of saying in the caption there too, how you're able to, you know, move it slightly to the left or right. It's quite an amazing tool to be able to perfectly align a composition, because you're not constrained in any any axis. You can, like you're saying, if you were a little bit higher, that mountain wouldn't have been over the horizon, so it wouldn't have worked. But you just drop down, you know, 2 or 3 meters, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's just works. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's been interesting learning the drone, because that's very new to me.
Okay.
When did you start
into that?
I'm sorry?
When did you start getting into the drone?
Really just like last year.
Yeah, well,
I'm very late to the game, but yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely enables you to cover a lot more ground as well, in terms of, you know, rather than, especially like you were saying, in terms of the difficult areas to access. If you're able to fly a drone there, then you can safely get into these sort of places which you just wouldn't be able to walk to otherwise. And there's definitely an argument around whether or not a drone actually has less impact on the environment because of the you're not having to actually walk anywhere, and so there's less foot or you know, your mark on the land maybe even less, although you know, there's obviously bird life and other animals that may also get impacted, but probably from a much shorter time perspective than what a footprint could leave. So it's an interesting conversation in its own right, that one.
Yeah.
Wow.
Some sublime images here. I think I recognize this cluster of rocks. I think TJ Thorne's got a shot of it. Is that right?
He might. I don't know.
I
We've all
think I've
kind
seen
of
a couple
shot
of
that
people shoot
area.
it. It might just be the same sort of area, but they look
Mm.
so cool. Like the sort of the red and the blue tones in it, the geometric shapes. But yeah, obviously I haven't seen. If I have seen this before, I haven't shot it like the way that you shot it. So no, it's a cool sort of slightly wider perspective, capturing all of it rather than zooming in on the geometric
Colors are
lines.
really tasteful too. You could be
beautifully done.
tempted to amp things up a little bit, but it's it's just very tasteful. Yeah.
I was absolutely loving this. This is incredible. Just the subtle detail of how these two lines end on such a perfect balance of either side of this tree is such a great detail. Yeah, really, really nicely done.
Thanks.
Yeah, this one's beautiful too. Like not a scene you'd think of shooting. Like it's not an obvious thing to to cut out the sky and the way you zoom in there. But I love how you've interpreted that.
Yeah, it's a really good point. It's easy to get those blinkers on where you always need to have the horizon line in the shot, but this allows for a lot more interpretation and interest. Yeah.
I love excluding the sky. I think more people should do that.
Yeah,
it also makes it a lot easier in post-processing too, not having a bright sky to try and blend back in as well. Definitely some advantages.
Yeah, fantastic. And then another sort of is this like sort of post sunset windstorm sort of thing?
I think it was. I think the sun had just gone down. Just a little bit of light left.
Gorgeous.
Just so silky.
Very good.
Well, very inspiring, David. Very, very
Thank
inspiring.
You. And obviously there's plenty more. Like this is just a little snippet of 100 photos from the year. So, everyone, if you want to see some more of David's work, there's plenty more on the website.
I'm subscribed to their mailing list too, and I highly recommend subscribing. They've a brilliant email list and always sharing their adventures and always very inspiring and very thoughtful in what they're putting in the email. So certainly worth following along if you're not already, and you'll get a lot out of it. Like
I gotta run. I'll be right back.
Yep, no dramas.
All good.
That's all right. We'll move to Cody's stuff now anyway. So yeah, we'll have a bit of a delve into Cody's work. So yeah, Cody, I feel like you've got a little bit of a slightly different approach to the typical sort of, modern landscape photographer. Like this is a bit more of like a lo-fi sort of look to it. Are you shooting on film or anything like that?
Yeah, so I've been shooting on film, large formats, 4x5, since 2019.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, so everything that you see on the websites, as of right now, I believe at least, is all 4x5. And it wasn't until maybe 2 weeks ago, something like that, as of this recording, that I actually picked up a digital camera that's I think might actually stick around this time, unlike the previous two.
Yeah.
If you know anything, I bought a friend's GFX 50S.
Yeah, nice. Very nice. Wow.
Yeah, so I've got that. I have the Midicon 65mm 1.4, which is roughly a 50mm lens. And I just got in from Japan a Pentax 120mm f4 macro that's from the Pentax 645 film cameras. So that's both adapted lenses, but they are going to be very nice to use. So looking forward to that.
And do you think the sort of film like adapted lens would create some more interesting effects on the digital camera, or did you say there's not a huge difference?
There won't be a huge difference. This, especially because the version of this lens that I have is the newest version, and it had also been used on the Pentax 645Z. That is their digital medium format system. So I can't imagine there's going to be any difference, and it's known to be a very, very sharp lens. So that's going to be beneficial as well.
Yeah, nice. Is that what 100 megapixels that you're working with, or
It's 50.
50? Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. Fantastic. So you're kind of really stuck with that sort of medium format, style. You find yourself connecting with that.
Yeah, I mean, back in, I think it was December of 2021, I want to say, somewhere around that time, I picked up a Nikon D800E
Mm,
and I think it was like a 50 millimeter lens, trying
mm,
to get away from film to go back into digital, have that flexibility and everything.
mm,
It's nothing really with that camera connected. I ended up returning it
mm,
to where I had bought it, and then stuck with film for a bit longer. And then this past August, when I was heading home from a 2 week trip out to Colorado with my dad,
mm,
I ended up buying a Sony A7R II and a 70 to 200 millimeter lens. And again, it stuck in the bag for so long.
mm.
I used it a little bit here and there. I haven't touched the files from it at all.
Yeah.
It was one of those deals, like, I love the process of large format,
Mm,
and I actually wanted to bring that camera out and use it. Whereas with the digital, with the Sony, I had no desire.
mm,
And I decided, like I said, to give this a shot because with a GFX system, I've been interested in it for a while. That medium format digital that has not been as accessible as it is today
mm,
in previous years. And so decided I couldn't beat the price of what this guy was selling it for. And I've loved it since. I actually want to
Mm.
use the camera. I just love the heft of it, the feel of the lenses, everything. So I definitely can see this replacing film for me because
That's
there's,
supposed to be similar, yeah, just the similar format and field of view and
yep,
everything. 4x5, it'd just be like it feels similar, but just with the slight extra flexibility of digital, I suppose.
exactly. And less anxiety around like whether a shot's actually going to turn out. Did I
Mm.
expose this right? Did I
Mm,
meter everything right? Am I gonna, because I did everything myself from exposure to scanning, developing
Wow.
everything. So it was
mm,
just a matter of I
mm,
would I'd come away from a trip that I was really excited about a photograph, and there was a lot of questions in my head of, is this going to work out? Am I going to mess something up with the during development? And it wasn't beneficial for me. So
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
suppose
So,
like it does make an image a bit more special when you have those extra elements and you have nailed it. But it does introduce that anxiety that I suppose if you're always dealing with that, then it'd wear down on you a little. I can imagine.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mm, yeah.
if
Oh,
the
that's
image
awesome. Well,
doesn't
hopefully it
turn
works
out
out.
if the image doesn't turn out, then there's nothing special about it, unfortunately. So,
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like it's definitely taught me a very almost Zen-like approach to photography, whereas I'm enjoying the moment more than I am focusing on whether I come away with a photograph. So
mm,
if I go out for a weekend hike or just a day hike or anything, a walk in the woods, if I don't come away with a photograph from that, it sweat off my back like it was 5, 6 years ago before I started with it. Because as long as I enjoy my time out there, that's all that matters to me. So I mean, I can't say that was the same as when I first started out, though.
mhm. So it sounds
And yeah,
like
there's so
maybe
much
this.
more. Sorry, you go, Luke.
Oh, I was just saying that it sounds like the more maybe slowing down and having the capture piece as part of the process is also a rewarding aspect as well, which is really nice to have.
Mm.
Yeah,
It's just
slowing
so
down
much
is
more
always a good thing.
affordable these days too. Like, previously it had to be like a phase one or a Hasselblad or whatever, but
Mm,
the FX is just definitely just a bit more accessible.
mm.
We'll have a
Oh,
little
wow.
bit of a look through. So what sort of subjects do you find yourself typically gravitating towards, Cody? What do you connect with within the landscape?
The woods is the biggest thing.
Mhm.
So I have property up in northern Pennsylvania. My family
Yep.
does, and in a way, kind of grew up in that area and
Mm,
exploring the woods, riding ATVs and fishing and hunting and all that kind of stuff.
mm,
So it's really just woodland is my biggest sanctuary, hence
mm.
the title of the gallery here.
Yep.
And these days I kind of focus more on the intimate side of things, the smaller scenes that often get passed by,
Mm.
like the skulls on the ground that people aren't necessarily going to stop and inspect or really uh, be interested in that much, but
Mm.
there's still a sense of beauty to them. So
The little
Love that.
droplets there in the leaves is
Yeah.
nice.
Have you been tempted to try a bit of color, or you're pretty steadfast in the mono?
I'm steadfast in monochrome.
Yeah. There you go.
Monochrome. Yeah, that's it started out in 2017 as a sort of New Year's resolution, a challenge to myself, and it somehow stuck around. I tried going back to color a little bit here and there prior to large format film, but
Mm.
it just didn't work out. I just like my black and white too much.
Mm.
I was just going to ask Cody. So I'm noticing you keep like little film scratches and stuff, at least in this one. Um, is that something that you like? That part of your sort of artistic vision is to keep that sort of organic look that the film creates. You don't want to sort of get rid of those little imperfections.
Uh, I wish I could say it was like that. In reality, it's just sloppy editing. I've
Fair
got
enough.
there are a lot of photographs that I have to go through that I have to just re-edit, obviously, like this one, and clean up a little bit more. But
Mm,
there's definitely a toughness to all of that,
mm,
because it's just I hate staring at a computer screen, and that's what pushed me
Mm.
away from digital in the first place.
yeah.
And so if I can avoid it, I do my best to. So I'll throw it up on the website at that point, but there's a lot that I got to rework too.
Yeah.
I
No,
just
it's
love this image. It feels like something out of a memory. Like, I don't know.
mm.
Um, like the falling snow, like the textures of the falling snow, kind of almost give it like this, like it's a high, like a higher textured grain almost.
Mm.
And then you've kind of got the little bit of actual grain up here, and the natural vignette that sort of comes in on the side. Is that a result of your film choice?
No, I think that's added in post, if I'm not
Mm.
mistaken. Most of my
Okay.
images I add a bit of vignette in post.
Yeah.
But yeah, film choice wouldn't really have an effect on that. That'd be more along the lines of what lens you're using if you don't have quite the lens coverage for the film
Yeah.
format that you're using. Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah,
Mm.
gorgeous. Yeah, and you can really tell that sort of connection with the woods. Like it really comes through.
Mm.
Lovely sort of like foggy mornings here. I love the reflections down here too.
Mm.
It reminds me like extremely different image, but sort of like that reflection shot from David in Death Valley. Like the sort of you got this reflection, but you've also got this sort of
Luminance.
prevailing texture on the
Yeah.
surface that
And
just adds a
that
bit
sort
of
of,
more interest.
yeah, the light patch sort of reveals that texture that, you know, so then it sort of makes sense in the darker patches what's going on. Yeah, which is
Mm,
nice.
mm.
Yeah, if
Um,
you go forward a couple images there, see that one, the mountain there, and the rhododendrons that are there too.
mm,
You were mentioning about bears previously and not having
mm.
to worry about bears over in Australia with you guys,
Mm.
but yeah, that was taken down in the Smoky Mountains, and I've got a little story if you'll entertain me for a minute.
Please do,
Mm.
please do.
So let me see. That was in 2022. My girlfriend and I, every year since our senior year of high school, we've gone on some kind of camping trip or some kind of trip for about a week. And we decided to go camping in the Smokies, and then we headed over to Nashville, Tennessee, because it's big country music and everything for her. But anyway, the first day that we were in the Smokies, we were walking around Cades Cove Loop, which is just a road that you can walk along. But on Wednesdays, they shut it down for vehicles, and you can walk or bike along it. And so it's about 90 degrees Fahrenheit out there, and sweating. We're walking along. We don't know how long this loop is going to be, so we decided to take a break.
Yep.
I put my camera bag down because, mind you, with large format film, the bag gets to be quite a bit heavy. It's about 25 pounds or so on my back, and it's not the most comfortable thing all the time. So put it down aside of a little fence that had a creek on the other side of it.
Mm.
And I was kind of just walking around. So the girlfriend and I were talking and looking around the area, seeing if there were any compositions. And down the road in front of us came a mama bear, a black bear, and
Yeah.
her 3 cubs came walking
Yeah.
along the road.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really thinking. I had my phone and my wallet in my pockets. Wasn't really thinking about my bag and the melting granola bars that I had in there that were giving
Oh,
off quite a tasty scent to the bears.
yeah.
So as we are backing away, making sure, because the bears are approaching us, we're backing away a little bit, trying to give them some breadth so they don't come over to us.
Mm.
And Mama Bear sniffs out the bag and realizes there's some tasty stuff in here and I want this.
Mm.
So
Oh.
she went ahead, she pulled the bag into the creek, my tripod and everything attached to it,
Oh gosh.
pulls it into the creek, and her 3 cubs follow her down into there. And mind you, from where we're standing, and I'm not getting any closer, I'm not able to see what they're doing. All I hear is their little grunts here and there, and I just know that it's not going to be pretty when I finally get my bag back, if I
Yeah.
do at all. And all the
Yeah.
while, we're sweating to death.
Mm.
So we're standing there. We have a couple people that are up on top, like in front of us in the road, that have just stopped. They're waiting. And about a half hour goes by, and finally, Mama Bear comes out. She's done with my bag. She's fully satiated from having her little snacks with her cubs.
Oh.
Mm.
She walks across the road in front of us and goes off into the field. Maybe a minute or two later, her cubs follow her, and I finally get to inspect the damage. And luckily, it wasn't too terrible, but they sure got those granola bars. They also
Yeah.
got they bit into the sunscreen that we had in there, the bug spray, and I inspected my camera once we got back to camp,
Mm.
and the ground glass was quite a bit beaten up. Luckily, that was the only thing that was armed with it, and it was still usable. But every
Mm.
photograph from the Smokies that I had taken with that was taken with a broken ground glass that I then had to replace after getting back home.
Damn.
So yeah, it's maybe could have been avoided, but I also think about the fact that if those bears had come down and smelled the granola bars while the backpack was on me, how would
Mm.
that have played out? So
Yeah.
you never know.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
yeah, that was my introduction to the Smokies, and I think we were there for another 6 days or so. So it was,
Wow.
yeah, it was an introduction for sure.
Damn. And they're just going to be so much more defensive when their cubs are around as well. Hey. Yeah, geez. Do the black bears tend to be a little bit more placid with humans or a bit more afraid of humans than the grizzlies?
Yeah, yeah, you can scare them away pretty easily. Even with cubs around, they don't really want to be messing around with you unless they really feel threatened.
Yeah.
It's the grizzlies out west that you really got to be careful with, and
Yeah.
polar bears don't even think about it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I still would not want to mess around with a several 100-pound animal
Oh,
with
no,
sharp
not at
claws
all.
and teeth at all.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
keep my
yeah.
distance regardless.
I think that's a wise choice.
Are you usually carrying like bear spray when you're going on these sort of hikes?
Yeah, I picked it up afterwards. Of course, hindsight's
Yeah.
2020 kind of deal. But yeah, yeah. Uh, I try to, but uh, like you say about having bears around here and having coyotes and bobcats and all that, but to be honest, I've not had that was the only run-in that I'd had with any of them, and that was strictly because down in the Smokies, that's the biggest population that we have, really, I
Mm.
think. Um,
Yeah.
in my area in the woods, I've never encountered them. At the cabin I have, but it's rare. It's very rare. So
Yeah, no, that's fair enough.
Mm.
But yeah, just the idea of wherever I am in the woods, if there can be some giant haired clawed animal with fangs that could want to grab me, then yeah, no, that scares me.
I get that with Tassie Devils down here. They tend to like chase me down, and no, they don't. But that'd
Drop
be an
bears.
interesting.
Drop bears.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's the one we normally go with.
Yeah. No, good stuff. Good stuff. Have you had any sort of encounters? Like, obviously, you've got your gallery with the wolves, but do you haven't had any more worrying encounters with wildlife, David?
Thankfully, I have not. We spent a lot of time in grizzly country between Yellowstone, Tetons. Really haven't had any bad encounters. The worst I've had is actually with a moose that charged us from a way up on a hill. He looked like he was totally fine, and then just decided that he didn't like us there, so came barreling down the hill, and
wow,
was big bull. It was pretty scary, but yeah, he was just showing off to tell us to get out of there.
Yeah, okay. So he kind of did like a bit of a bluff charge sort of thing.
Yeah.
Wow. And I've seen some videos of moose in the last year or two, and they just look massive. They look so intimidating.
Yeah, they're huge.
They are.
Yeah,
They're
like you
so...
don't like when it comes to like intimidating animals, obviously in the States and stuff, it's not the first thing you think of as someone that doesn't live there. But then you see your first one of like a full-sized moose,
and they're really not very smart, and they're very aggressive.
Yeah.
So they kind of scare me more than bears, quite frankly.
Yeah.
It's a bit like in Africa too, isn't it? Like you've got all the lions and cheetah or leopards or whatever over there, but the thing that gets everyone's the hippopotamus. You know, it's always something different than you think.
Yeah. Cool. Very good. Well, we might start wrapping it up. Before we do so, though, have you guys got any projects or things that you're working on, either for yourself or for the magazine, that you're really excited about, that you're happy to tell us about?
For me right now, I'm working on a project on Death Valley, just from the last couple of months. Right now I've got like 200 images that I need to whittle down a little bit.
Yeah, wow.
But I love all of them, so it's going to be hard, but that's what I'm really working on right now.
Yeah, fantastic.
Amazing.
Is there a particular theme through that, or is it just location based, like Death Valley exploration?
It's just kind of random between we had lots of crazy weather here, lots of storms, so a lot of really atmospheric stuff, and then between that, just exploring different canyons. So
oh yeah, you mentioned the canyons.
Yeah, kind of those two different things.
Yeah, fantastic. Awesome. Well, looking forward to seeing when that eventually comes out. Yeah, maybe just put out a 200 photo ebook.
Yeah, exactly. Then you don't have to choose.
Well, there's a few of us who wouldn't mind seeing all 200.
Yeah.
Who said culling had to be a thing, right?
It's probably still been plenty to get to the 200, I'd say. But yeah.
How about yourself, Cody? Have you got anything? Just working on the magazine?
Mainly focused on the magazine at this point. I am currently playing around more with my website. I trying to experiment a little bit. It's weird for me because a lot of my focus has gone in the past into writing and less into photography. But now with the GFX system and playing around with digital more, having that flexibility, I'm curious to see how that's going to change things in terms of output. But I still have photographs from my trip last year that I need to go through and edit and see about putting some of that work out there. But I don't know. We'll see. I'm just, like I said, just going by the flow of things and seeing where the magazine takes me and see what happens from there.
Sounds awesome.
Fantastic. Are there any developments happening with the magazine that we can be excited about? Happening in the next issue?
We've got, let's see, what is in the next issue then? Well, you've got an interview with Matt Payne about his recent trip to, or his what did you call that? His backpacking trip that he did in Colorado, that big one. Yep. Other than that, we've got a couple of articles from some new folks coming along, and yeah, what anything else to add for that, David? Having a major blank of what we've all got going on.
It's all good. If you want to keep it close to the chest as well, if you want to keep some things as a surprise, that's fine. But yeah,
I'd be super stoked to hear about how Matt's walk went. So that would be he put so much time and thought and process into that. So yeah, that'd be amazing to read about.
For sure.
Cool.
For sure.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for joining us, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure and privilege to have you with us, and hear all about the NPN and the magazine as well. It's definitely something that I'll be putting my eyeballs over, and I'm hoping that some people watching will also really check it out and sign up to some of the mailing lists as well. There's plenty of amazing information there if you're into nature photography or looking to learn a bit more. And even for an old fart like me that's been doing it for a long time, there's always those nuggets of information that you can pick up, especially from different perspectives all over the world, new varied environments that you might want to look at photographing in the future. There's always heaps to keep your eyes or keep your brain ticking over with, an inspiration and that kind of thing. So that's often what you need just to get things going, and seeing David and Cody's amazing images is definitely put a bit of fire in my belly as well. So I really thank you guys for that.
Yeah, thank you guys. It was great being on.
Yeah, it's been great to have you. So yeah, thanks for getting in touch, and we very much look forward to seeing where Nature Vision magazine goes in the future, and seeing how it develops, and seeing all the amazing different contributions that you're going to keep having and already have had as well. So yeah, I mean, look, we can probably link the websites.
Oh yeah, no, we'll definitely put that in the description and that kind of thing, so that people can head straight into that. And and also the David and Cody's websites as well. So check those links out, and
Cool.
Enjoy.
Yep, fantastic. All right, well, thanks everyone for joining us for our episode. We hope you've had a great evening and that you've enjoyed it. David, Cody, thanks so much for joining us and for giving us your time. And we very much look forward to seeing what happens with it in the future.
Thanks
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
See you guys.
Good evening.